episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast, where we showcase the success stories of Black and Brown veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. Okay, so today we have a very, very, very special guest. We are putting the spotlight on a powerhouse straight out of the Windy City, Miss India Rose. India is the principal attorney and founder of the 711 Law Group, a boutique business and intellectual property law firm located in the heart of Chicago. She's not just a boss in the courtroom. India is also a proud U.S. Navy veteran, a graduate of the Ohio State University, honey, yes, and a true advocate for community and connection. From serving her country to serving her clients with top-tier legal expertise, India is redefining what it means to build a legacy. Let's give a big six-figure vet welcome to the brilliant, bold, and unstoppable India Esquire. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Very excited.
Of course. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Okay, so are you from Chicago?
I am not. So I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm an Ohio girl. I am, and proud of it too. Very proud. So I'm from Youngstown, Ohio.
I knew something was going on how you capitalized that "the" in front of the Ohio State. Okay.
At heart, I'm an Ohioan and a Buckeye, because there is a difference, right? I'm an Ohioan and a Buckeye. So yes, no, I'm from Ohio. I lived in Ohio all the way until I joined the Navy. So like the first 17 years of my life, I was in Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay, so we're going to get into how you ended up choosing to open up a whole practice in Chicago, especially being a Buckeye, because like you said, there is a difference, okay? But first, I want to just get into your upbringing. Like, tell me about, India Rios before she joined the Navy. What made you be like, yeah, I'm going to go be in the Navy out of all the branches?
India Rios as a youth. I wish my dad was on here, because my dad be rushing for the opportunity to tell people how bad I was. She was so bad. She was a horrible kid. Like, he tell people that all the time. I took him out to dinner with a friend of mine up here one time, and I went to the bathroom and I came back and my friend was like, your dad said you were really bad. That's what they talked about.
So embarrassing. Why did you say that?
But he ain't lying.
That's the bar though.
Yeah, he is not lying. I was a horrible child. I was. And I tell people that all the time, especially people with kids that like they be struggling with their kids. I be wanting people to know like there could potentially be light at the end of the tunnel for you, because there was a light at the end of the tunnel for my parents, because I was a handful. Grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, very poor, even though we didn't realize we were poor, not to like shade or slight my parents. And sometimes, ignorance is bliss. I didn't really realize how broke we was or what our struggles really look like in relation to other people's. But I grew up pretty poor in Youngstown, semi two-parent, not really situation. My mom and my father are separated. I mean, they have always, for my entire life, they've never been together. And my mom, she doesn't have a high school diploma. She does have a GED now. Shout out to her, but she doesn't have a high school diploma. Yeah, so I grew up with my mom being a nurse's aide. That's like a common job where I'm from. There's a lot of nursing homes there. And my father is a machinist.
Okay.
So he went to like a trade school. He has like a trade or whatever. I spent most of my youth with my mom until she ran into some situations of her own. But as a kid, I would say poor, but fun and bad. And a big part of me being really bad was being really smart, to be honest.
You think it was boredom?
Very much so. And I almost can attest to it. There was a point in my childhood when I say I was bad, like I was expelled from the 4th grade. I was expelled from the 6th grade.
Not suspended.
Expelled. I was expelled. I was expelled from Eagle Heights Academy, and I was not allowed to return to the 5th grade. It was a charter school, and like when I went to school for
India, what was you doing to them people? Dennis the Menace?
Girl, fighting. I stabbed a little boy with a pencil.
Oh yeah, you was off the chain.
Yeah, like doing little fights. And then my mouth was crazy. This mouth has been like this, I feel like, since I could talk. Like I would be saying things and be very bold, like never much of a liar, always one to like stand on business. Like, yeah, I slapped her. and I slap her again. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I don't feel like taking this test, so I'm gonna put my head down and take a nap. Like, very like openly defiant. Like, well, y'all not, what y'all gonna do about it?
Yes.
Who gonna check me before it was a meme, right?
Right.
Like before that was a thing where like for real, like
And
who
you are in elementary school with this type of nonsense carrying on.
in elementary school with this type of nonsense carrying on. And they had even tried to like the school system had tried to persuade my mother that I was mentally handicapped and that I should be put into special education. And one thing, I don't have the best relationship with my mother, but one thing that I will always give her credit for is that she resisted them,
Yeah.
and she resisted them hard. Like, they were like trying really hard to entice her, telling her things like, you guys will get a check, talking about Social Security. If she gets put on these special classes or whatever, it'll be better for the other kids in the
Girl.
other classes because she won't be there distracting them. She'll be with kids that learn slower like her or whatever. And you'll get like $1,000 a month, which was a lot of money back then. It was a lot of money back then, and we were struggling. Like, I'm talking about our gas would be off. I grew up mostly with no house phone. Like, I grew up in a household. I remember telling somebody where, like, every day I would come home in the wintertime and I would check the sidewalk before I would go in the house to see if the gas people had came and, like, sprayed the blue line on the sidewalk. Like, that's how I would know that the gas was off. Like, that's the type of environment that I was
Yeah.
in, like extreme struggle, extreme
And
poverty.
it's crazy. It was your normal.
It was very normal. It was very normal
So
for me.
normal.
I really didn't think anything of it. I have like plans, and I'm grateful, honestly, even though those times like growing up, when I look back, like, yeah, maybe it would have been nice to have like a luxury pampered childhood, but a big part of that struggle really attributed to my mental agility today. And I
Yeah.
think that's why when life knocks me down, I get back up so fast, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like I'm just used to it. Like, I'm going through the
Yeah.
motions. I had a situation where some like property had changed hands, and I didn't realize that I had needed to like switch the gas over. So the gas was off at my home for like a day. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this is nothing. I'm going to just boil some water. It's very
Don't worry about it. I've experienced this before. It's all right.
I know what to do.
Panic.
I know what to do here. I know exactly what to do here. It's nothing, right? And like a lot of people who are similarly situated to me today don't know how to deal with situations like that, to deal with extreme adversity or poverty or whatever. So, like I said, young India was really bad. They wanted to put me in special education. My mother resisted them so hard. She was just like, no, I know she's not, for lack of better terms, dumb. I know she doesn't have mental problems. And I'd be trying to be, when I grew up, we would say things like slow and stuff like that. So I'd be trying real hard not to use those terms, even though they kind of like come second nature, because that's what I'm used. That's what I'm.
It's a cultural thing almost,
right? You know what I'm saying? But like, I'd be trying to say mentally handicapped, because I don't want to offend anybody who does go through anything, right?
Yeah.
But
that actually has those issues.
Exactly.
So not just being labeled incorrectly.
Exactly. So my mom, she would be telling them like, I just know I see her do things. I interact with her. Like, and I was very advanced at a very early age, like as far as like cooking and making stuff in the house and washing clothes and doing whatever it was that I wanted to do. I was like very advanced to the point that it was kind of like, she can't be, it just can't be. And what's crazy is that when I was in the fifth and sixth grade, they swore that I needed to be in special education classes. And then when I got to seventh grade, it was my seventh grade English teacher who said that, in fact, she believed that I needed to be in all advanced placement classes. And that was the problem. Was like, actually, I just don't think she's being challenged. And even if I'm wrong, right? Worst case scenario, I'm wrong. And she goes into special education, and she goes into advanced placement, and she gets a whole bunch of C's. The C's still count as B's in advanced placement classes.
Yep.
And she'll learn more stuff. Like, even if she struggles, I think we should try this. So my mom went along with that. And they put me in the advanced placement classes, and I never got any C's. I never had any problems. And even those classes, I could be a little bit disruptive in, because those classes were could be boring, and I could catch on pretty quickly. I always had to have like, I need to be challenged pretty much consistently. So that's like a wrap up of like my childhood. in a sense. Well, not really like a wrap up, but like definitely for like my younger youth, from going from maybe she's
Yeah.
mentally handicapped, actually she's just really smart. And that acknowledgement was good for the people around me, you know,
Yeah. What
to
did
kind
it do
of
for you though?
understand. For me, it didn't do anything for me, to be honest with you. I really, looking back, I can reflect on it and be like, oh, they made good decisions there. But in the moment, these classes didn't mean anything to me. Like,
Right.
in this class, regular class, advanced class, special class, class is class. I'm going,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it wasn't, it didn't really have any real bearing on me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you go from being a troubled kid, being mislabeled for it sounded like a couple years there, right? Now you're not, now they know that you're smart. So how did you go from there to how did you evolve into the Navy? Where did that come from?
So it took a while, I guess, to evolve in that space. In high school, so right before I started my freshman year of high school, my mother went to prison.
Okay.
I ended up moving in with my father at that time. Well, actually, I did probably like 8 months in foster care. Then I moved in with my dad.
Okay.
So it was like a transition in that space. Once I got with my father, I feel like my home life was significantly more stable, but also still very troubled. If that makes any sense, it was
Mhm.
like a lot going on around me that probably shouldn't have been, and not by way of, not even that it was a lot going around me that shouldn't have been. I had become adjusted and accustomed to living under my mother's rule, which was really no rule. So then I
Yeah.
moved in with my dad and my
Now I
stepmom
got structure.
and her mom, and they got eyes on me all the time. It's always somebody at home. They expect me to come home immediately after school. They got all of these rules. So it took me a lot to get used to them. And we went
Yeah.
through a lot of growing pains in that environment.
Yeah.
Uh, I ended up actually moving out of their home. I was like 16, 17. I moved out their house early, like on some, oh, I don't have to be here. I could be wherever I want to be. I really thought I was like way more, mature and advanced than I really was. And the streets was beating me up for real. Like, I was learning lessons. I was learning lessons outside. I was like, I got outside and I got to learn the lessons real fast. But I always would go to school. So I kept going to school, even though I was staying on my own. I had experienced some teenage pregnancy, and I'm very like transparent in everything that has ever happened in my life. I don't feel any shame for anything that I've experienced or
As
done.
you shouldn't.
I had got pregnant when I was in high school. I had decided that pregnancy was not for me at that time, so I went ahead and got me an abortion. That was something that I kind of like had overcame or whatever. But at that point, after I had the abortion, one of the biggest reasons that I kept saying that I wanted the abortion so bad was because I didn't want my life to end in Youngstown, Ohio. I didn't want that to be
And
my.
a baby would have, you felt like a baby would have solidified that.
Oh yeah, I was going. Where would I go? What would I do? I
Yeah.
wouldn't. Where would I get the support? If I had this child, especially by this guy that I'm like wildly in love with at 16, that I wouldn't dare look at today. No
Girl,
shade
ain't it
to him.
always like that?
Yeah, like I wouldn't even consider you for
I
anything.
feel the same way, and it's all shade.
You saying this all
It's
shade?
all shade, baby. Palm trees.
No, that's right. I know that's right. So yeah. So I had did that and I was like, well, since I've done this, I don't want it to be for nothing. Like I really do want to like do something with my life. I had applied to Wayne State University in Detroit. So I had applied to
Okay.
go to school to this Wayne State University and they accepted me. So I had got accepted into this school or whatever. But then the reality set in of my true situation now that I live with my father, because I was in a household that made significantly more money than the household that I lived in with my mom. So when I had moved in with my dad, my father being a machinist and my stepmother went through like this process where she had became like a registered nurse or whatever. So like they were making really good money as a team,
Right.
and we really weren't eligible. I wasn't eligible for any
For
real
any
financial
money.
aid or Pell Grants, stuff like that. I wasn't eligible for any of those educational things. And I had selected a school that was out of state. So I was looking at like out of state tuition for like a community college for real. Wayne State is like a community college. So,
Yeah.
like I was doing all of that to try to go to this community college. It wasn't really adding up and it didn't seem like I was going to actually get there. Plus, I was still living outside my home. So my father and my stepmom wasn't
They
rushing
ain't trying to help. Yeah.
any, financial aid paperwork or anything to that effect. And I really had joined the Navy. To be perfectly honest, I tell people this all the time. I joined the Navy on a whim. I graduated from high school. The day that I graduated from high school, me and some of my friends, we were hanging out at this gas station that doubles over as a hangout spot in my small hometown. And it was a recruiter there, a Navy recruiter and his whites, like his working whites or whatever at the time. I don't even think they have those anymore. But he had on his working white uniform.
Like the one with the flap on the back?
No, that's your dress white. And I know they still have those.
Oh, yeah, they don't have the working whites anymore.
Working whites. They like a button-up shirt with the slacks.
Oh, yeah. No, they don't have
working
no
whites. It was one of my favorite uniforms.
That was fly.
The working whites was one of my favorite uniforms when I was in the Navy.
Yeah, that was fly.
They switched to be all camo. I don't know why the Navy did that, but I digress. But he had asked us, this recruiter, I'll never forget, Petty Officer Avila. And he had asked us, like, you guys graduated from high school. What are your plans? What are you guys going to do now? And my friends had plans. Their plans maybe weren't all that. Like,
but it was a plan.
Youngstown State. I'm going to work. I got a job at Walmart, whatever. They had plans. I didn't have any plans. And I said that I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I'm working on figuring it out. But I'm not worried about anything because I'm like, 17, I haven't missed any meals yet. I'm not going to start missing any meals. So
and at this point, you've been on your own for a while.
Yeah, and I just been out just being one with the world, doing who knows what, right? Like, no, seriously. Out just being one with the world, just doing who knows what. And he was like, you should join the Navy. So you don't have any plans, you should join the Navy. And then I was like, I was like, why should I do that? He was like, well, just think. These two, they're going to go somewhere where they're going to pay to be there. And you could go somewhere where you get paid. And that resonated with me. I was like, how much? How much? So you get $1,000 a month. You get like $1,250 a month as a E1. You make about $1,250 a month, and that's not a lot of money. But you won't have to pay for anything because we cover all your living expenses, your dental, your health, your this, blah blah blah. So you really just get the $1,200 to do whatever you want with it because we're gonna feed you every day and do all the rest of this stuff. I was like, I'm very interested in that. Yep. And I think that for him, I don't think he realized how serious I was. Because the next day, I took the city bus to the recruiting office. Like, I came to them the next day. Like, because the next day was like Monday morning.
Oh, yeah.
I was there. I was like, yeah, I wanted to follow up. I had met this guy at the gas station. I'm trying to...
in white. Yeah, an all white. Yeah, everybody in here were all white.
He had on all white. But everybody had on all white. Now I'm like lost. I don't recognize him, And they were like, we think you're talking about Avila. Hold on. We're going to get him up here. He's out with a recruit doing something, but he'll be back. Just take a seat. So I went ahead and took a seat. I waited for him. He came back. And lucky enough for me, I had already taken the ASVAB. I had taken the ASVAB because, they target inner city, poor areas like that.
Which is a whole nother conversation.
They target us hard. They had brought the tank to my school. You know what I'm saying? They was
that was on your
tons of recruitment, right? And I remember I could skip AP chemistry if I went to the library to take this test. And it was going to be a test in AP chemistry that I wasn't ready for. And I hadn't prepared or studied for at all. So I was like, I'm going to go take this test that don't matter. I'm going to take the test that don't matter. And
this is the one that do.
It was truly a test that did not matter because I bubbled through. Like, I was way ahead. I didn't read any of the questions. When I put my information on there, I bubbled through the ASVAB. And then I left. They gave us a break to use the restroom, and I never came back.
Did you finish the test?
I finished the test. I skipped ahead. So when it was all said and done, I think that they just...
Because you're supposed to do it in sections.
Yeah, you're supposed to do it in sections. I think they just scooped up all of the booklets and scooped up my thing, and they said, well, her sheet is fully bubbled. We're gonna grade it. You know, like, because I wasn't there. So I don't know what they did. But I had left the materials. I bubbled the entire Scantron form. When they gave us that break, the high school I went to was Flax.
What was your score?
It was very low. It was like a 47 or something like that.
You'll be surprised. Do you know what the requirement to get in now is?
It's like a 16 or something, I heard. It's very low. So I had like a 47.
It's like, you know how to spell your name? Come on in.
Yeah. And I believe that. I had a 47. And I didn't really qualify for that many jobs though back then. With a 47, I wasn't qualified. It was like undesignated ex-seaman, BM, boatswain's mate, aviation boatswain's mate. And it was like, you know, it's like three types
ABEs, ABFs, ABHs,
ABH, right? So like ABE equipment, then the grapes was fuel, I think. I don't know what the H's was, but
they did something on the catapults.
Yeah, they did something on the deck. Yeah. So I qualified to get in, and then they sold me on being undesignated. Like, oh yeah, being undesignated is gonna be great. You don't have a job. You're gonna get to shadow different jobs and pick which job you want. And that's not what it was like at all. But
I have a friend, her name is Lakita. She was in the Navy as well. She had a 4-year degree. She's now she's a Black girl in tech that does like startup, like founder of startups. And they sold this lady on being an undesignated airman.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, you know, she overqualified. She had a 4-year degree. They told her just sign up right now, and then
work on
you're gonna be an officer.
Yeah, we're gonna do the officer package. They don't give you enough information about that. Yeah, she needed to come in as an officer.
Like, the way that they just lie to get you in is crazy.
It is. And I do feel like they definitely lied to me. But I also feel like it was my first lesson about doing my research on my own, right?
Yeah,
and not just taking what people tell you and really like doing the research, which obviously was a little bit harder. You know, the internet was mid back then. But, Very know, like I needed to ask some people. I should have been inquiring further. I just went with that. I feel like I graduated from high school on like June 8th or something like that. I was at boot camp by like July 24th.
Oh, you was out of there.
Yeah, it was a very fast turn for me. So like I didn't really do any real research or really get any true understanding. And I paid the price for that every step of the way. They cut my braids off, you know, like the swimming thing wasn't all that they said the swimming thing was going to be. They made it seem like we was going to be, you know, being gingerly taught how to swim, not getting pushed off.
Diving. And they be lying because I know for a fact I got pushed.
Oh no, they definitely pushed me. I got pushed. They pushed me. That was one of the craziest, scariest experiences of my life. I went all the way to the bottom of the pool. I literally remember being at the bottom of the pool and using my hand and pushing myself from the bottom to like come back to the top.
And this is not for all my civilian friends that ain't never, you know what I'm saying, or the other branches. Hey, this ain't no regular 8-foot pool. This pool is like 15 feet deep. So that is a long way down.
It's a long way down. And a
long way back up.
Very much so. But then when you think about it, it makes sense, right? Because how deep is the ocean?
Like, you've been more than 15 feet.
This pool ain't got nothing on the ocean. And if you fall off that ship, and that's how they got it set up, right? So simulation is set up like this is the average height of an aircraft carrier. And this is the average drop to the water from an aircraft carrier's, you know, flight deck or whatever. So they have like the logistics set for you to kind of almost experience being a man overboard, right? Yeah. No. And that was a hard experience. I mean, boot camp in general was just really hard for me because of my mouth. I was like very like adjusted to like, I'm not scared of y'all. Y'all if you looking at me, I'm looking back at you. You know what I'm saying? Like
that was disrespectful.
They feel disrespected by the eye contact. I'm staring you down. Like, what are you staring at me for? You know what I mean? It took me a minute to
play the game.
Adjust through that. It took me a long time to like really kind of like understand, like even understand that just because you feel like you're not about to do something that you're told to do, you don't necessarily have to tell the person that you're not going to do it. You can
Yeah.
just say, Roger, that, and then not do it. And they'll never know, probably, you know? Or
Right.
instead of picking everything as a battle, it took me a minute to really kind of like overcome that aspect.
Yeah. So what did you do in the Navy?
So I was undesignated at first.
Okay.
And I was undes for like 2 years. My first ship was the USS Vela Golf.
Okay.
CG-72, good times there. And then I tested into aviation administration. I hadn't realized AZ, yeah. I don't want to be outside. I don't want to be painting. I don't want to stand watch for real. And in my mind, AZs didn't stand watch. I learned later on they do stand some little watches, but
Right.
nothing.
It ain't nothing like
to being in deck and the watches that we had to stand in deck department, right? So I was like, I'm gonna be clean. I'm gonna be in an office with a seat.
Yep.
And I'm gonna shuffle me some papers around.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's so I tested into AZ. I made AZAN at first, so I got rated but not ranked. And then I ultimately ended up being like a second class when I got out. So I did, you know, progress in the rate.
Yes.
I really don't know anything about being an AZ, which I think is funny because like I didn't do that much work. I really didn't. I went by the time I had became an AZ, I had fully like adapted the work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
The you know, how to look busy when you're not. Like I had got good at that to the point where I just play work all day.
I want to know how. Okay, that's a question for it. But I'm gonna hold on to that thought because now being on the outside of the military, because I adapted too. I was an LS too, so
okay, yeah.
But I'm working at S1, baby. I'm not humping no boxes. I'm at the computer. What you need, honey? I'll improve it from where I'm at. And it took me a while, like, to get back adjusted to working hard for something that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to like chilling and skating by or letting, like, I was at LS and I'm a people person. So I was very well connected and
same. And that's what you need. That's what you need.
Do.
You gotta be very well connected.
But it's a blessing and a curse when you get out because you don't have that no more.
That's a fact. That's a
fact. You don't have that no more. So learning how to work hard again was a challenge for me. Like was a real, I'm not gonna say it made me lazy, but like putting in footwork was a thing I had to relearn how to do. Cause I didn't have to struggle no more. Like we have a lot of this similar backgrounds. Like my mom passed away when I was 13. I was bounced around from house to house up until I graduated. I don't know how I graduated, and honestly, my family probably don't even know this, but I honestly didn't graduate high school. I never got a diploma.
Okay.
I ran away when I was in 9th grade, but I was taking all advanced classes, which weighed more.
Mm-hmm.
They weighed more. And in 9th grade, when I ran away, all of my, like, I failed that semester. I failed the last semester of my 9th grade year. And they was like, okay, come to summer school so you can get your advanced diploma. But I was like, I'm not going to no summer school. I'm not doing that. So I just continued to take advanced classes all throughout my high school like years. I just continued to take the advanced classes because they weighed more. So I ended up graduating with just enough credits for like a standard diploma, although I had taken all advanced classes for my high school time. And when I walked across the stage, they gave me a paper like, hey, you didn't get an advanced diploma and you got to see the guidance counselor for your regular standard diploma because it got to be ordered. And I just never went and got it. I was like, as long as I get my transcripts, like that's all I care about. And I'm pretty sure nobody knows that until right now if they listen to this.
Yeah, and I think too, like, them high school diplomas, they do not matter like that. Like, whatever events, tech, whatever, you know, they put all these little designators on them diplomas. A diploma's a diploma. You got a high school diploma, that's what matters.
Yes, exactly. So what was your deciding factor on getting out? Because it sounds like, you know, you said you had integrated in, you had finally figured out the cheat code, the system, and it sounded like you was doing pretty good in the military. So what made you be like, all right,
I will say
it's time to dip?
I will always be grateful to the Navy for what it did for me, right? It pulled me out of extreme poverty and put me on to big systems, big business, got my health care, all of the rest of that stuff together, taught me a lot about discipline and structure and,
Yes.
holding my tongue and things of that nature. I will forever be grateful for all of that. But the Navy was very oppressive, a very, very
Let's talk
oppressive
about it.
place, like very oppressive for Black women, all of these hard regulations about our hair.
What?
Was experiencing things to where I would have a chief who would literally come to my desk once a day with a ruler and stick the ruler in my head to make sure that my twist out wasn't giving more than 2 inches of bulk. Like I was
If
dealing
that's
with
not
stuff like that.
oppressive,
Yeah, like getting written up for my hair, getting written up for that. And then just like recognizing that they've created this system that they swear is colorless and it's blue and there's no racism, but there's a human factor at every level, right? There's a human factor at every level of advancement. And like being one of very few Black women in the military, I really like struggle with authority, people like, being overly exerting their authority over me, being very demeaning in their discussions and talk and how they address me.
yeah,
And recognizing that there's a difference between how my petty officer addresses me versus how they address my white counterparts,
yeah,
or my male counterparts, right? How I'm
yeah,
versus my male counterparts and things of that nature. So for me, I really just wanted to get out to be free.
yeah,
I knew that I had wanted to go to a 4-year type university. I knew I wanted to go to a big school. I had kind of thought about wanting to join a sorority. And one of my junior sailors, she used to always tell me she worked under me, but she was very wise. Proctor, Alicia Proctor, she would always say to me, like, you don't want to be 40 trying to cross. You don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be 35 trying to cross, right?
right,
I don't want to do that because it is like you too old to even be having fun with the people. Like,
yeah.
like you don't want to be in that type of environment.
So you
And
need to do it now.
yeah, and then I will always be saying little stuff too, like, I really want to get out, but I'm concerned because I got this debt, whatever, whatever, whatever. And, she had said to me too, another thing, she was like, if you waiting for the Navy to pay off all your debt and pay all your bills, you never getting out. If
You
that's
never
what you're
gonna get
waiting
out.
for, you're never going to get out because you always going to have bills. You always going to have like these adult responsibilities. You're going to have debt. You're going to incur more debt. That's just a part of like being a grown up for real. So when she had kind of like presented that to me in that way, and I started thinking about what she was saying, I kind of had to agree. So when I had re-enlisted when I first joined Navy, I joined for 4 years. When I came off of sea duty, I was entitled to 2 years of shore duty.
Yeah,
and I really wanted those 2 years.
I want that.
Yeah, like I done been out to sea all this time. I done been on 2 ships.
Yeah,
I deployed 3 times. I want
my
my
shore
2
duty.
I'm supposed to be relaxing for 2 years and I want to relax.
Right.
Right. So I went on shore duty and it wasn't as relaxing. And it was like almost like in the fleet, when you forward deployed, you a forward deployed part of the fleet. It's like we don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have time to be nitpicking with you about the buttons on your uniform or nothing like that because we really are at the tip of the spear.
Right.
We got mission essential stuff to do every day. On shore duty,
it's a different story.
It's a whole different story. Nothing but people want to throw their weight around and nitpick over shit that don't matter.
Yes, we're bored.
Yeah, exactly. We really,
we're gonna find a way to entertain ourselves, even if it's through you or your misery.
The culture should be knock off as soon as possible every day, muster by phone. That should be the culture. But instead, the culture is dress whites inspection for no reason. We ain't going nowhere. The culture is seabag inspection for no reason.
Seabag inspection, get out of here. Knock it off.
They was doing that at my last command. And I hated it there. And I was like, yeah, I'm not about to do another 2 years. I was really hoping that they wouldn't approve me for like, they had some type of system. I can't remember what it was called, like fit to serve or perform to serve or something like that. And I was hoping that my perform to serve wouldn't get approved, so then I could get like a severance. So I was kind of holding out to see what they was going, you know what I'm saying, give me or whatever. And ultimately they gave me authorization to re-enlist. So I was like, nope, well, I guess I'm not getting a severance, but I gotta go.
Right.
And it's crazy too. One thing I will say, the thing that I remember the most is that when I wanted to get out the Navy, I had so many people telling me that I was making a mistake. So many people telling me I wouldn't survive. Like, you're not gonna make it out there in the civilian world. It's so different out there. Down people that wasn't even in the Navy. My hairdresser told me not to get out. My hairdresser was like, all the girls I know that was in the Navy that got out, they can't even afford to get their hair done anymore. Like, it's gonna be so hard, and you need to stay where you at. Why is you even getting out? And my reasons didn't resonate with people.
Yeah.
That's one thing I say, if I could say that, if I could speak to anybody on here that's like currently in the military, that's thinking about getting out, and they got people saying like negative things to them, one thing I would say, fuck what everybody else talking about. If your reasons are valid for you,
Big facts.
they valid enough, right? You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to wear a uniform anymore, you're tired of wearing a uniform, that's a valid enough reason. And my reasons was centered around like lashes, nails, makeup, hair. Like, they were all centered around.
But it's rooted in oppression.
Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't wear my hair in the Navy like this.
Oh, no.
Right now, if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this, you would think this would be great because you could put you should
everything on it.
Any type of head egress, any type of flash hood, any type of cranial, anything should be able to go over this. You would think it would be perfect, but it's way too ornamental and individualized for the Navy, right? So because of that, people was telling me like, oh yeah, and these reasons are childish. Basically, I'm childish because I want to wear my hair how I want to. I'm childish because I want to wear red nail polish. I'm childish, you know what I'm saying, for these things. But that's what I wanted. That's what I really wanted, was to have the freedom to dress and be however I wanted to be.
Hey y'all, what's up? It is the Six Figure Vet here, and happy International Women's Day. In honor of it being National Women's History Month, the Six Figure Vet brand is hosting its inaugural brunch celebration March 29th in the Hampton Roads area in honor of Black women in service from past and present. This event is to celebrate, honor, and give Black women in service from past to present the flowers that they are so much deserving of. From time away from your families, leading and pouring into people while sometimes not even getting the credit that we so much deserve. Okay, this one is for you. Now, you know it wouldn't be a six-figure vet event if it wasn't a little conversation involved. There will be a panel consisting of some experts and some bosses within their respective fields coming to give us game on mental health, home ownership, tech, advocacy, physical health, and much, much more. And of course, it wouldn't be a Black woman brunch if we didn't have music and mimosas. And there is limited seating, so don't wait till the last minute to get your ticket. March 29th, 12 to 3, brunch with your girl. Let's go. The Six Figure Vet is out. Dreaming. And I think that's more so what it is, like freedom.
Yeah.
And like you said, your reasons are your reasons, but you have to live through some of that stuff. And you know, not to throw shade or not to do anything like that, but a lot of the people that projected that oppression look like us.
Absolutely. And a lot of the people who was saying that stuff, they was really just giving me their own fear. So like Jay-Z,
y'all project your fear on it.
Exactly. Jay-Z had said in an interview one time that he had an uncle who told him he'd never sell 1 million albums or something like that, or he'd never make $1 million. And what Jay-Z said was like, I recognized that it wasn't that my uncle didn't want to see me win, or he didn't want to see me succeed. It was really that he couldn't fathom something like that in his mind because he couldn't see something like that for himself. right? If you can't see something grand for yourself, it's really hard to see something grand for somebody else. And a lot of times your vision is bigger than the people that you talking to, or you telling your stories and your dreams and stuff like that to, right? So in my mind, it's like everybody who was telling me not to get out because I wasn't gonna make it, they really just that was a fear that they had internalized.
Yeah.
That was a fear that made them keep signing up. And it's easy, and I don't look down or think down on those people at all, because it's easy, especially when you're in an environment where you've basically been groomed, for a lack of better terms, right? The Navy groomed you.
Yeah.
They groomed you to think that you need them. They groomed you to make you feel like you won't survive as a civilian. They groomed you with the move up, not out. They've groomed you with
and
that.
that's the thing, India, because when I dealt with the same thing. I was pregnant when I decided to get out. So they
oh no, you ain't gonna be able to take care of your baby.
Like, they was like, girl, are you crazy? Are you insane?
Baby gonna be hungry.
Right. They like, what are you gonna do for food? I'm like, bro, I don't know.
There's people in the military with a baby that's really struggling.
Struggling. I know so many people in the military with kids that are barely making it. And I would just think to myself, like, how you're telling me not to do this because you ain't never did it. You still in the military. You ain't never got out. So that's why you've never did what I'm about to do. So how can you give me such strong advice for something that you've never did? Like, you probably done heard this saying before, like, don't take advice from somebody that ain't never been where you trying to go.
Exactly.
Like, you ain't never been no veteran.
Because how do you know?
How do you know?
You don't know for real.
You don't know for real. So that's a really, really good point. What were some things that you took from the military that you were you were able to carry over from your military experience over to the civilian world?
I think one of the biggest things is just like time management. Mm-hmm. Having a real firm handle on time management, having the discipline to do it now instead of putting it off, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to like schoolwork, things of that nature, having the discipline to seek assistance early on. If I need tutoring or something to that effect. I think that the Navy really kind of like conditioned my mind. Out of everything that I would say I gained, the most important thing or that I really realized was that in the Navy, they can make me be anything for them.
Yeah, for real.
On Monday, I'm AZ2. On Wednesday, I'm on the flight line pretending like I'm AB2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Wednesday, I'm a career counselor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's a fire. I'm a firefighter. Oh, it's a hole in the wall. I'm a pipe patcher. You know what I'm saying? Like the Navy can make me, the engines need to be cleaned. I'm an engine filterer. Like they work crew up real quick and throw people in that work crew from all departments to go.
No lie.
And you are that. I'm a gunny today. I'm moving bombs. Like you know
I ain't never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. You're anything that they tell you to be for that day. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. So that to me was probably my greatest lesson ever, is because if I could be anything for them, anything that they want me to be at any given moment at the drop of a dime, I could be anything for myself.
Crazy.
I could do anything. I could be a lawyer. Right? I could be anything for the Navy. Why can't I be a lawyer?
Yo, that's facts.
Right? And not to say that that's where my mind was at in the initial days when I got out the military or whatever, but my mind was very much, if I could operate in this system and I can figure this system out and navigate this system with them changing my role at their whim, I can navigate life. I can navigate civilian life. If I can navigate military life with these being the conditions, I can absolutely navigate civilian life.
Oh, that's good. That's so good.
And then nothing is do or die to me, right? Because I've been in this environment where things really matter. Where, if I didn't turn the wrench 2 times to the left like I was supposed to, the bolt could fly in the engine and blow up the plane, right? I done been in situations where things really matter, where I really have to pay attention to detail and really be tapped in and focused in on whatever the case may be, right? So if I could do that for them, why can't I do it for myself?
Right. With something that I'm actually interested in, because I ain't never want to be no firefighter.
Exactly. Even
I ain't
though
never want to do none of that.
I enjoy damage control. Okay, I was
Girl,
damage control superstar. I was like the I was
hated it.
I
Get me
was
out of this hot suit.
on scene leader, and that's let me tell you something else. Let me tell you something else too. That's something that the Navy put that in my brain. Right. Something I realized about the Navy: more qualified you are, less work you doing.
Yeah.
That's why I went from being number 7 on the hose to the nozzleman, from the nozzleman to the phone talker, from the phone talker to the on scene leader.
Right.
Because the on
Because
scene leader don't even have on no FFE.
nope.
The on scene leader just got that little oxygen pack on their back. They don't
Yep.
have on a full apparatus and mask for hours while the drills and stuff is going on. The on scene leader don't got that going on. And you know what? It's been nice being an on scene leader, but I'm ready to be the phone talker in the locker now. I'm actually ready to be
Ready.
4 compartments away from the fire.
Right. I'm ready. Get me out of
Away
here.
from the fire. So yeah, I picked up on the fact that the more qualified you are, the better off you are. That's why I was dual warfare qualified. I was surface warfare qualified as a E2. I
Okay,
was
S-Dub, A-Dub.
I was SWAW as a E3 or E4. By the time because my first command did I advance yet? No, I was AZAN AWSW before I was even a 3rd class. So, but having those qualifications,
Mattered.
they matter. Being air warfare mean you're not going mess cranking. Being surface
Yep.
warfare, you're not going mess cranking again. Like that stuff, they put a lot of weight into that. So I would get those qualifications and do the things necessary to pass those boards to get my pins and stuff, so that I could be elevated from the work fray.
That's a real thing. I actually got that really hit me when I became a civilian. I'm like, what's crazy? The more money I make, the less work that I do.
Exactly.
The jobs that want to pay you $15, $16, $17 an hour, they want to micromanage you. They want to give you all this workload. But the good jobs that I've had as a civilian, I don't do much.
$17 an hour. They want to drug test you. You got to ask permission to use the bathroom. You got to ask for
you
your
get a 30-minute break.
Yeah, exactly. And they
what is this?
One time. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you actually 2 minutes late today. Can't have that happen again. Like, come on, bro. Like, come on now.
Yeah, the more qualified you are,
the more qualified
the less
you
work
are.
that you're doing, essentially.
Absolutely. So how did you get out the Navy? Okay, we get our hair done, we get our nails done, we got red on our nails, honey. We got designer braids. And you say, what was the plan? Where did law come into play at?
Not for years and years. So when I was getting out the Navy, a big part of me getting out the Navy too, like I said, my shipmates. Shout out to my shipmates, because they used to be following up with me about stuff. When you be running your mouth saying, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, it'd be some people who be really holding you accountable. It's about time for those applications. Aren't applications too? Like, when you gonna submit your college application? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one of my junior sailors had proofread my personal statement. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really, leaned on people around me. But I had applied to Ohio State and I had got in before I got out. So I knew that I was going to school. I knew that for a fact. Like, that was my plan, was to go to school, to collect unemployment, because I was entitled to 52 weeks worth. And to go to school and to collect my unemployment and figure it out. So I went to the Ohio State, as you know. I majored in political science with a concentration in comparative politics. And then through that process, in that space, I had really thought I wanted to lobby. I had worked some campaigns, tried, because to be a lobbyist, you got to be a campaign person first, because you got to build the connections. Mm-hmm. So I had worked some campaigns and I hated it. I did recognize, though, that I was like really good at like persuading people. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that I really wanted to like tap more into that. So when I was working the campaigns, I would be always on like cold call fundraising. Like, I was really good at getting people to make campaign contributions over the phone. And I was like, I wonder what else I could persuade people to do. Like, I wonder, how I'm going to use that. But it's interesting that, and it was like a game for me, because I want to see, can I? Can I,
Yeah.
right? Can I call you and present you with something that you're not thinking about at all, and then get you to make a contribution or make a
Yes.
donation or come to an event or something like that, right? So I kind of honed those skills in that space, but I didn't really like working campaigns. And I realized pretty quickly that I was probably going I was going to end up not being a lobbyist or whatever. So I just kept working on being a persuader. I was at David's Bridal while I was in undergrad. I was at Macy's while I was in undergrad. So in those little jobs, selling dresses, persuading people to buy gowns, selling Macy's credit cards to people,
Right. Still honing in on your skills.
yeah, just really working on like developing like people skills, like
Yeah.
regular front facing people skills, kind of getting a better understanding of how people work. Took some psychology classes to kind of help with my persuasion tactics, things of that nature.
Okay. You're dedicated, baby.
Yeah, I was dedicated. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get people to get credit cards every day. I'm gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Like again,
I'm gonna
just
study the art behind telling these credit cards.
yeah, but very very narrow focus, not thinking about it in a big picture sense. And then when I graduated from undergrad, I had decided that I was going to work at this law firm. It was a law firm / title agency, so they did real estate transactions, and I was doing like the escrow side of that. So like processing everything that you need to buy or sell property. And there was it was a little bit of legal work involved there. And they were like really encouraging of me to become a lawyer. And they kind of like planted to see the attorneys that I was working for at Saw and Saw. They were kind of the mindset, I think you'd be a great attorney. Like you handle this stuff very well. And I think they kind of had like their own interests at heart too, in the sense of like, you could work here in the day and go to this law school at night and we'll help you out. And you work with the financial aid office. We'll work with financial aid office to help you out, whatever. But in my mind, I was like, if I'm going to go to law school, I don't want to go part-time at night. I'm not a single two.
Yeah. You are dumb.
I'm not though. I don't want to go at night.
I can afford to go full time, baby.
Yeah, I go in the daytime. I don't got people relying on me in the daytime. I don't have children or anything. I don't got a household to maintain. Why would I go part time at night when I can go full time in the day? Right? Like this could be my job. I can go back to school full time. So ultimately, that's what I did. I took the LSAT, did horrible. And I love to tell people that. I think I scored like a 120 something, 127 on the LSAT, something around there. People want like 150, 140. That's where like the scholarship money and all the rest of that stuff is supposed to play at. I scored a 120 something. I still got a scholarship.
That's all that matters.
And I wasn't about to take the test again.
Favorite is not fair.
It was really hard. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to move past this. I took this test one time. I'm not going to pay to take it again because I don't think I'm going to do better. So it's really going to be a waste of my money. This is where we are. I'm going to take this score and I'm going to see where this score will take me.
I can get in.
Yeah, I'm going to take this score. I'm going to see where the score can take me. And in my mind, law school and applications, I'm bringing the full picture here. Yeah, my LSAT score was low, but I graduated from The Ohio State University with honors. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I'm a minority. Like, let's put all of these things in play.
Yeah, I'm going to use everything. And that's that's a bar. Utilize your status. If you, whatever they think of minority or they try to use as crippling, baby, it's power behind it. Being a veteran will get you indoors.
Oh, a very big door opener.
Very big door opener.
And an excuser too, because that's something I recognize when we talk like about me getting barred. I had to have an interview for the bar because I had so many things in my past from like being like suspended from school and
really that stuff popped up.
Oh yeah, from like high school suspensions. Not that it popped up. Nothing pops up. That being an attorney is a self-reporting profession.
Yeah.
So if they ask me what happened, I'm going to tell them the truth, right? Have you ever been suspended from school? Yes, I have. I was expelled from the 4th grade. I was expelled from the 6th grade. I was suspended at least 60 times between kindergarten and 12th grade. And I'm being I'm not being generous with the number 60. I probably should say 100. Like, you know, like
This a
whatever
real
was going on
thing.
with my credit. These is the bills. These are the bills I paid. These are the bills I didn't pay. You got to be very front forward with them with that. But you have the interview, or if you were arrested for anything, you know, growing up young, Black, and poor. I don't know if other people have dealt with this or if this is just something that I experienced. I almost hope that it only happened to me and it wasn't happening to other people. But like dealing with your parents calling the police on you.
Oh no, that's a thing.
Yeah, having your parents call the police on you. You know,
Mhm.
you got to be careful when you're doing stuff like that to your kids, because your kids might have to explain that later, right? When they're
Yeah,
trying to become a lawyer. Hey, when your child is trying to, you know, overcome all of their past and
yeah,
want to step into greatness, you actually, things that you've done that were irrational, like calling the police
very.
on kids, they can have to explain that. I
Yeah,
had to explain why I went to juvenile, why my mom was calling the cops on me, why my stepmom called the police on me. You know what I mean?
that's the
Why these
thing.
things happen, because those arrests come up in your records, whatever. And then you disclose stuff, even if it's been expunged from your record, even if it can't come up, because if for some reason it does come back up and you didn't self-report, you will be disbarred.
Yeah.
And it's really just that simple. So like I had got like pulled over one time and it was some weed in the car, and I wasn't high or smoking or anything like that. It was like somebody had dropped some weed on the passenger side. And it's so crazy how I remember my friend was looking for that nug real hard, and the
And
police
couldn't
found it
find it.
like that. The officer found it in 20 seconds
Like,
flat.
how was you looking hard enough?
Yeah, what was you doing? Like, but you know, things like that. So you have to disclose all of this stuff to them though, and you have to go through this interview. But what I remember about the interview is I was so nervous about the interview. And then he was like, the guy was basically talking for me. He was like, yeah, but you joined the Navy at 17 and you turned your life around and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Let's go with that. The rest is history. If that's the story, couldn't have said it better myself, sir. The rest is history. And then he tells me, like, yeah, I can't tell you, you know, what's going to happen, but you won't be hearing back from me. So I knew, like,
That.
okay, he's going to approve my interview.
Right.
And I went through and got barred, but that was definitely a process. But that was one of the times where it, like, really was like the Navy can clean things up for me. Things that happened before I went to the Navy,
Man,
chalk
what?
it up to the Navy turned me around.
Yeah.
Navy straightened me out, you know?
Yeah, for real. Even if it didn't, we gonna say
Yeah. We're gonna
that
say
it did. Okay.
yeah, if that's what you want to say, I want to say that too. That's a great explanation. Let's go with that.
Right. So you get into law school, you take the LSAT, you get into law school. Did you okay, so what was law school like?
Law school is a Shark Tank with a whole bunch of sharks wearing Nemo masks, right? So imagine you're in a tank full of sharks, but all of the sharks have on Nemo masks. So they're all, you know, pretending to be sweet little fishes, but they all really killer sharks.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that's what law school is like. And to me, it was very frustrating in some points because I felt like I was always the only shark in the tank with no mask.
Yeah.
Just being my regular shark self, right? Everybody else is pretending to be so kind and caring to each other. But at law school, you're graded on a curve. So it's competition from day one. People can be very like cagey with notes. You miss class, it could be hard to get notes from people. You ask somebody a question, they won't
Oh.
answer your question, or they'll act like they don't know or they don't understand. And then the professor asks them the same question using the Socratic method, and they'll give a glowing answer. Or the professor could call on you and ask you a question and you don't know, and it's 50 hands up around you that's just dying to answer the question. Excuse me. It could be one of those type of environments. I used to tell people that I went to law school with that I wasn't in competition with them, that I just really just wanted to be a better version of myself and to like really soak up whatever I could. So I made it a habit and practice of actually being willing to share my notes, being willing to give you notes if you miss notes from class or whatever the case may be, because what God got for me is for me. That's what I always tell people. What God got for me is for me. You can have my notes. You can have it. We got the same book. We got the same notes. We're going to take this test and we're going to come out and fare however we fare. And
Right.
I feel like I was really blessed because I did well in law school. I felt like after that first year, I had went really hard because I was really concerned. But then I was like, oh, I could study significantly less. Like, oh, I've been studying so hard. I think I can study significantly less. So I throttled way back. Like, yeah, I'm gonna, do less. Less is more. I started getting a lot of B's. I was okay with that though. I was okay with B's. I was satisfied with those B's. Like I was getting a lot of A's, but I didn't mind the B's at all. That first semester I got a whole bunch of A's. Second semester I was like, let's see if we can't get all B's and be less stressed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's find some balance here.
And be less stressed. And that's what I worked towards. That was my goal. Things went well in that space. One thing I'll say too about law school though is like there's competition with the grades, but then there's also like competition with the jobs. There's competition with trying to get friends to get you jobs at places and things of that nature. It can be really hard to like land in a good space, especially as a minority. My profession is very white.
Yeah.
It's a very white man driven profession, and it shows every day. It never misses an opportunity to remind us, right?
Yeah.
So like I never felt like I was really like well received in traditional legal spaces. I never felt like I was well received in traditional legal spaces. I never felt like I was well received at the firms that I worked at. During law school, I worked at one firm while I was in law school, and they were nice. They were very nice. But there were like no Black lawyers there. The only people I really used to like have laughs and jokes with was like the support staff, which could often be a black professional story. You feel very alone and you find yourself gravitating to the people that are in like lower positions that aren't necessarily your equals, but they have those colloquial experiences and similarities that kind of like bridge all together and, make it fun or whatever the case may be. So I was like very tapped in with the clerks, which is a blessing. It's a blessing that people don't recognize because the clerks really be knowing. When you're a new lawyer, your clerk might know more about the law than you.
Yeah, for real.
How the law actually works, right? You got all of this theory knowledge of, case law and the mechanisms of how the legal system works. But as far as like actually getting documents filed, actually serving notices to people, things of that nature, they know more. So like I was like very reliant upon them and grateful, that I had like made friends with them in that space. But the profession, very lonely. And then it could be discouraging too, because one thing I think is like that you're qualified, but you're not getting the looks. You're not getting the interviews. You're not getting the opportunity, So in law school, we go through like OCS, like this employer fair type thing or whatever, where everybody on campus interviews, OCI, on campus interviews where like these firms come and they hire people. And like, I didn't get this job. I went to Ohio State with this girl. We were there about the same time. We were in law school together at the same time. And we both applied for this job and we both interviewed for this job and they hired her. And I hate to say it, but I know that I'm more qualified than she is. I knew that I was more qualified than she was then. And I'm like, it's crazy that, we both went to Ohio State. She admitted to me that she graduated from OSU with a 2.4 because she was focused on soccer. She was like she admitted that she was focused on soccer and she graduated from Ohio State with a 2.4. We both was going to the same law school. Mind you, I graduated cum laude. So I had 3. Right. She graduated with a 2.4. In law school, my GPA was higher than hers in law school. She admitted that to me too. I had like, not by much though, like maybe like 3 points higher. Like I think she was coming in at like a 3.1 and I was coming in at like a 3.4 or something like that at that time. But then also considering my life experience, I've worked at a law firm.
Yeah.
All of these
things,
accolades and things that I can say that I've done. She had nothing like that. To be able to say, and she works at that law firm to this day. To this day. They hired her at OCI, and she still works there to this day. And, I'm happy for her, whatever, that's great. Fellow Buckeye, I'm not mad. But I recognize what it's like to be highly qualified but overlooked.
Yeah.
To be highly
That's
qualified.
a real example.
Overlooked. To be highly qualified, but to almost know when you enter the room that you're really wasting your time a little bit. I'm going through the motions of this interview, but I don't really know what's gonna happen, And I will admit that I was a bit discouraged in that space, but I had also kind of came to the conclusion that I was gonna create my own lane. I was gonna create my own lane.
And you know what I love about Black women, baby? If we don't do anything else, we're going to pivot.
Yeah. Don't even worry about it. Don't what that boy said. Don't even worry, sweetheart.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart. We're going to pivot. So absolutely. After experiencing all that, how did you pivot? How did you even get into so another interesting fact about Miss Indian Esquire. Another interesting fact, she's she does law, but she's in like intellectual property and trademarking. And I just find that so amazing. So how did you pivot into your own practice and, saying, okay, if you all ain't gonna open no doors, I'm gonna just create my own doors and my own tables, and yeah, just give us that because I'm interested.
Well, I really feel like it started in law school. So when I was in law school, I had started a company called The Solo Genie. And that company was geared towards helping solo practitioners like what I am now start their own practice. So like I would come in, get your website up, get your systems together, get your practice management software, kind of create like a filing system for you, things of that nature, like really kind of like start your firm.
Yeah.
So, right. So
you did that in law school?
I was doing that in law school. So I was running that company in law school, because I really needed more money than those jobs was paying. So I really didn't want one of those jobs. I had a job at a firm. Like I said, I left that job so that I could run my little business, because my little business was making me way more money. I was spending less time. I could pick who I was working with, or, what cases or what clients I was going to take on or wasn't going to take on, and how much time I could dedicate to them. So I had went ahead and started doing the Solo Genie. The Solo Genie was pretty successful. So I pretty much had the tools already to start my own practice. And then when I took the bar, most people use that time from when you take the bar to when you get the results, because it takes like 2 months or so to get the results. So most people use that time to apply to a whole bunch of jobs. And I didn't do that with my time. I actually spent a lot of time making a resume that I have never used. I spent maybe like 2 weeks doing that in Adobe InDesign, which is like craziness for real, because I didn't know about Canva back then. I really mastered this Adobe platform to create.
Listen, but that's another cheat code, because if you know, you know.
Yeah, like I was in Adobe, like I'm gonna figure this out, watching videos, everything. I didn't got the whole Creative Cloud. I was working on that. And then I had came to the conclusion after I had finished the resume, I was like, I'm not seeing any jobs that are in the area of law that I want to practice and entry level. Like there weren't any like first or second year associate positions for somebody who doesn't have a hard science and math background in intellectual property law. And that's the thing with intellectual property, is that most law firms want to hire somebody who's eligible for the patent bar. I'm not eligible for the patent bar because I don't have a hard science or math degree. So what that does is that limits me in those spaces to where I can do copyright, trademark, litigation, or registrations, right? But in the space of patents, I can only do litigation. I can't prosecute a patent. And generally speaking, most firms want to hire somebody who can do all of it. Right? So I wasn't finding anything that was like that. And a lot of people were telling me from the guidance counselor's office and things like that, they were saying, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take on a position that's in a different area of law, build up your litigation skills, build up your litigation experience, and then lateral that over into a trademark or copyright position. But it's probably going to take a couple years.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want to wait a couple years. And I don't want to spend 3 years practicing some law that I don't want to practice. And I have been telling myself for so long, like I used to have this saying, I'm doing what I have to do now so I could do what I want to do later.
Right.
When is later?
Yeah.
When is later going to be here? Because at this point, I want to do trademarks now.
Yeah.
And I'm really blessed that, that trademark is my passion, or, was the passion that I was the most concerned with at that time, because it's such a federal regime. It's so well built out. So the way that trademark law works is like the United States Patent and Trademark Office has a comprehensive trainings available because lay people access the system. So non-lawyers file trademarks every day, mostly unsuccessfully. I will put that out there, mostly unsuccessfully, but non-attorneys file trademarks every single day. So what ended up happening was I looked into it and I'm like, well, the USPTO really teaches me most of what
I need to do.
Right? If I go through all of their trainings, I can kind of build something up from this. And then I end up joining this Chicago Bar program, the Justice Entrepreneur Project, where they like help incubate small firms. So with all of that in play, I was just like, yeah, I just really want to start my own practice. So I am going to spend the rest of the time while I wait on my results building my firm, building my law firm website.
And you already got practice in doing that because you've been doing it for other people.
Doing it for other people, right? So I built out, and it was really fast. Like getting my stuff together on the ground floor maybe took me about 2 weeks to get my initial things together. But then even I had like went through like the USPTO system, downloaded all their forms and templates. I capitalized on the fact that I still had access from being a law student, because you get like LexisNexis and these other like search databases that attorneys use for like X number of months past graduation.
Oh, wow.
I went into those systems and downloaded so many templates and practice guides and everything that it was going to take basically for me to learn how to do this job by myself. And I just felt like, nobody wants to hire me to do what it is that I really want to do. And I don't want to go into any of these spaces for real anyways, because like I told you when we first started, I'm not a code switcher. I'm not. I just don't have any bandwidth for that. This is what you see is what you get. How I talk is how I talk. Like I don't have a white voice. I don't have anything special.
Yeah.
To give you, right? So I was like, I am going to focus on building a place, creating a space for people who look and act like me to come and be professionals with me.
Yeah.
I haven't grabbed any yet. I have like my marketing manager and my assistant, and they are, very much themselves all the time. But I haven't, had the opportunity to bring on like counsel, more attorneys, but eventually I will. And I'm hoping to be able to bring on some Black attorneys, some Latino attorneys who have faced the similar situations that I have faced, where even though you were highly qualified, you weren't being asked to interview or you didn't get any looks.
Right. So explain to the people what intellectual property is and why we should care about it as creators.
So intellectual property is the fruit of your creative genius. It is the fruit of your creative genius. It is the things that you make or that you put together in spaces that aren't tangible in the sense like real property, right? Like a house, or personal property like a laptop or a phone, right? Intellectual property is kind of like, it's like the creative genius. It's the idea driven. It's the tangible manifestation of your ideas. I would say that's the best way that you could describe it. And then in that space, you'll find that there are like copyrights, trademarks, patents, right? Patents being original creations, and inventions, tech, things of that nature, even reimagined ways to use things that already exist. And then you have trademarks, source identifier of any good or service. And then you have copyrights, which is any creative work in a fixed, tangible medium of expression. So like your podcast, the actual episodes, those should be copywritten. Those are copyrightable materials, intellectual property. The name of your podcast is a trademark. You have a slogan, unlacing boots or something, that's a trademark. That's a slogan, things like that.
I'm gonna cut this out because I ain't trademarked none of this stuff yet, and I know Black people.
Might want to get on top of that.
I'll be another client soon.
Might want to get on top of that. Yeah, no, I was like, Shell Not is a very distinct brand, and that's what you want to have when you're looking for trademark protection.
Yes.
But so that's what intellectual property is at its essence. Black people in general create so much intellectual property, and then we don't take ownership of it. And we also often find that people steal our stuff. Like people, take ownership before we get the chance. People will trademark things behind your back, even when you're doing business with people. Like a good example of that is Caesar from Black Ink. Viacom trademarked all of that stuff. That was all his.
All of his stuff,
and they made it to where like they could kick him off his own show. Basically,
they trademarked Kevin Gates' name. They trademarked this man's birth name.
And he might, and to do that, you have to do like there's an attestment that goes with that, where you have to like attest that you have the permission or whatever of said person. So he might have some recourse. I don't know. I haven't looked into his trademark situation. But yeah, they'll do that. They'll do it fast if you don't get in front of it.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And I like the fact that was actually my question. Like, what is some major mistakes that you see business owners make as it comes to trademarking? And it's not trademarking. It's not taking ownership of your stuff.
Especially before you collaborate with somebody. Before you collaborate with another company. Because if you collaborate and you haven't established clearly that you're the owner, then you leave room for them to say that they owned it. Yep. You leave room for them to say that they at least jointly owned it. You know what I mean? So that's just something that you got to just be very like aware of. But people, I hate to say it, you're supposed to trademark before you launch, right? Mm-hmm. But most people launch then trademark.
Yep.
And they find themselves in a situation too where you want to take ownership of a name and you can't because somebody else own it. And you already bought thousands of dollars of merch, or you invested in hundreds and thousands of dollars in, getting your website and domain and all the rest of that stuff. And then you find out that you actually can't take ownership, or you receive a cease and desist from the person who do own it, telling you to stop or demanding that you pay them a licensing fee. So it's, it's just a dangerous space to be in when you launch, then protect. But most of my clients are already launched when they contact me. And a good portion of my clients have a problem when they contact me. Like somebody's using it, or I'm seeing this person and they're holding themselves out as ABC company, but I'm ABC company.
Oh, that's crazy and very scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if you want to make sure that before you invest and really dive deep in something, you want to make sure that you actually own what it is that you're investing in. And that's why I tell people all the time, you wouldn't build a house on land you don't own.
No.
So you shouldn't build a brand that you don't own.
Yeah, that's real smart. I really, really like that. Okay, Miss India, tell the people what they can reach with. No, first I want you to you done gave so many gems to the vets, to the business owners. If it was one piece of advice that you could give transitioning service members or veterans as it relates to, becoming a civilian again, or anything pertaining to law, whatever, one piece of advice that you could give, what would it be?
I would say, this is what my father says, and I don't know where he got this from, but this is probably something that has stuck with me the most throughout my life. 2 things. 1, never put off a dream because of how long it's going to take, a dream or a goal because of how long it's going to take, because the time is going to pass no matter what. And you're either going to be closer to your goal or your dream, or you're going to be in the same spot that you were in when you first thought about it. But either way, the time is going to keep moving. That's the first thing I would say. And then the second piece of advice that I would give is, it's not the will to win that you need, it's the will to prepare. Everybody can imagine themselves as a winner.
Yeah.
Everybody can see themselves crossing the finish line, hair blowing in the wind, trophies and medals coming their way. That's not the hard part. The hard part is doing the work every single day to make you a winner on the day that you compete.
Yeah. It's the preparation for the 10-second race.
Exactly. It's not the will to win, it's the will to prepare. Because you naturally got the will to win. That's a natural will. Nobody wants to be a loser. Nobody imagines themselves losing, right? You don't have daydreams about losing. You have daydreams about winning, right? Yeah. So, and that's natural. The unnatural part is literally doing the work.
Yeah, that is so true. Tell the people they can reach you at, Miss India. Esquire.
You can find me at India, INDIA _ Esquire, ESQUIRE _ 711. India Esquire.
And that will be tagged in the show notes. And it has been such a pleasure. It has been such a pleasure, honey. It's been a pleasure. This has been another amazing episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast, where we showcase the success stories of Black and Brown veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. The Six Figure Vet is out. Hey y'all, it's a Six Figure Vet here. If you or any other active duty service member or veteran that you know is suffering with suicidal ideation, substance use, or mental health disorders, please tell them to call 988. The number is 988. They're trained crisis responders waiting to take their calls. You don't have to suffer in silence. Quantum Records.